He was very urbane, sophisticated. It was somewhat of a front. He was quite a giggler, really.
He was an incredibly attractive man that flirted with everybody, from, you know, from the director to the cameraman, to the taxi driver, to the makeup girl.
Thank you.
He was a workaholic. He just enjoyed his craft so much.
How did Sir Humphrey know that I was with Dr. Cartwright?
God moves in a mysterious way.
Let me make one thing perfectly clear. Humphrey is not God, okay?
Will you tell him or shall I?
Paul Eddington was born on the 18th of June 1927 in London. Although his mother was a Roman Catholic, his father's family were Quakers, and due to the unsettled nature of his parents' marriage, he and his sister Shirley attended over 16 different schools.
As a young kid in school, he'd have to stand up when they were all doing cadets and say, "I'm sorry, I'm a Quaker. Excuse me, sir, I'm a Quaker and a pacifist, and I will not fight." And for a young kid to do that must have required amazing courage. And that's what Paul had all his life.
At the age of 10, he joined the Quaker school at Sibford in Oxfordshire. It was here for the next 6 years that he found the stability that his life had previously lacked. Paul's first job was as a window dresser at Lewis's department store in Birmingham. But his growing desire to act led him to a local amateur dramatic society. Soon after, he decided to turn professional, gaining experience at both Birmingham and Sheffield reps. But in spite of this, he felt in need of more formal training and applied to RADA.
He was so far ahead of us, it was like a master surgeon playing with drama students. And I mean, we were in awe of him. He was so accomplished and so talented. And the extraordinary thing was, he, who was far and away the best of us, didn't have much luck, as I remember, and nothing much happened to him for a very long time after that.
He had previously met fellow actor Patricia Scott whilst at Sheffield Rep. And in 1952, they married. Paul, though, was finding it difficult to establish himself as an actor.
When Paul was really in the desert, not doing it all well, he had an opportunity to do a proper job. And he was approached by Shell to become some kind of sub-manager, petroleum manager, and Trish said, "If you do that, I'm leaving you."
I was absolutely alight with fury. And I said, I married an actor. And I gave up what I was doing to marry you. And I said, if you take this job, I'm leaving. So he didn't.
Tricia Eddington is a remarkable woman, and I don't think for one moment that Paul would have had the success he had without her backup. She was absolutely the power behind that throne.
She was the root to the tree, if you like. I mean, every single thing he did and thought and said was filtered through her.
The first of their 4 children, Toby, was born in 1954. And as their family expanded, life on a struggling actor's wage was never easy.
We had some very difficult times financially for a long time, but he always managed to get work.
He might give you another chance if you own up.
Book, you don't deserve his money. You can't claim for gambling debts.
Now, come on. You.
Look, Mr. Dixon, I can explain that.
You used your uniform for this.
I had to have money, see? I did it first time just as a lark. Nobody suspected a copper, see?
There's nothing worse than a rotten copper.
I remember seeing him as Will Scarlet. I used to tease him about that. I mean, Robin Hood riding through the glen.
Robin Hood, riding through the glen. Robin Hood, with his band of men. Feared by the bad, loved by the good. Robin Hood, Robin Hood, Robin Hood.
It was the first time we'd had a steady income since we left Repertory Company.
I know how well you...
He used to watch the rushes, and he'd come home and say, I am appalled. I am appalled by what I'm doing. I said, well, darling, they won't use those bits. And he said, well, I hope they don't. But he learnt.
Oh, well, I better be going. Got a long journey. Mustn't keep my new masters waiting.
We'll be delighted with you. Give them our compliments.
I will. Au revoir. Auf Wiedersehen.
He never stopped working much, but always small money because he wasn't well known till he got into the sitcom. Then, of course, people began to say, oh, it's Paul Eddington, isn't he marvellous?
Good evening, Jerry.
Good evening, Margaret.
Good evening, Barbara. Good evening, Tom.
Good evening, Margot.
Good evening, Margot. Good evening, Jerry.
Good evening, Barbara.
Good evening, Jerry.
When we first started The Good Life, they were kind of foils for us. It was Barbara and Tom that were the stars of the thing. And they were support. And in fact, the episode 1, as we all know, Pennykeith wasn't even seen.
What the devil do you think you're doing?
We are dancing in our goldfish pond.
Oh, don't be so damn silly.
What is it? What's going on?
It's the goods. They're dancing in their goldfish pond.
He was dying to do the comedy that he loved doing. And John Howard Davis was the first director who approached him. And he had seen him, of course, on stage.
I'd seen Absurd Person Singular, and Paul was absolutely, obviously, the right choice.
Margot.
It certainly was a watershed in Paul's and Felicity's and my career, I would say, because it made us instantly recognisable, not only as actors who'd been on the television, because we all had before, but also as those characters. Why don't you just throw a bucket of mud on the floor?
Look, I have just cut my finger clipping your blasted hedge.
Don't swear, Jerry. And don't bleed in the sink. I just cleaned it.
I suppose he must have been about 40 then. And it put him on the map.
And don't throw rubbish in the rubbish bin.
Well, earth not.
I've just emptied it.
Penny has a very special style, and it works beautifully. It's very, very precise and sort of chiselled. And Paul, though his is exactly as precise, and it's exactly as chiselled.
Even when things were going well, he would sometimes look terribly hunted and and I'd say, what is it now? And he'd be worrying about something.
Paul would generally arrive first thing in the morning, complaining about the traffic, that he'd had to negotiate. Felicity and Richard and I all live south of the river, and very near the rehearsal room. Paul had to arrive from the north of London, and every single morning we'd hear about the horrors of the traffic, which was wonderful, because John and Bob eventually incorporated that into the Jerry character.
God, that rush hour gets worse every day. It took me half an hour to get across London Bridge this evening. God, I think that Friday night traffic on London Bridge is the worst of all. Best part of an hour tonight. If I get stuck in the traffic on London Bridge this morning, I shall probably have a nervous breakdown, and I shall send you the bill for the damn psychiatrist.
Jerry was very put upon, not only by Margot, but by that wretched Tom Good, who was really quite a pain, I always think.
Wait, sir!
Haven't you forgotten something?
Oh, yes, of course. Happy birthday.
Oh, Jerry, you shouldn't.